Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Persecution Report. Let us wait just maybe 30 seconds or so to let other people join in, and then we're going to begin the show. Please hang around with us. Excellent. Let us begin. Welcome, everyone, once again to our show today. On August 5, 2024, Bangladesh changed overnight, but not in the way some people tell it. What changed was not just who held power. What changed was that a Baul fakir could not walk to the market in his own village. What changed was that whether a 150-year-old library could survive a so-called victory rally. What changed was that whether the word Mongol, which simply means auspicious, was still allowed in Bengali celebration. Tonight, we're going to talk about what has been done to our culture, who is doing it, what it costs, and what, if anything, can be done. I am Raihan Jamil, your host for the evening. Welcome to the Persecution Report. Let me introduce the people with me tonight. My co-host is Anwar Sadat Jihan, who is an aerospace engineer, a prolific writer, and someone who has spent years documenting the culture and political history of Bangladesh. Jihan is going to walk us through the evidence in a way I think will surprise even those who follow this closely. Jihan, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rehan. What we are going to talk about tonight is not any isolated incidents, and all the incidents that we will see are not isolated. You will see that there is a pattern, and once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it.
Thank you, Jihan. Next, we have Dr. Tashfeen Hussain, who is a professor of finance. Most conversations about cultural destruction stays in the moral register. Dr. Hussain is going to show us what this costs in hard economic terms and why that matters for Bangladesh's future. Tashfeen? Welcome to the show.
I'm sorry, my mic was muted. Thank you for inviting me in this show, and greetings to everybody who's watching this. So if we think about our culture, culture is our thousands of years of nurture lifestyle and our tradition. So our food, our music, our theater, our dance, our religious and non-religious festivals, they are all part of our culture because they're all part of our lifestyle. Naturally, then our economic activities are intertwined by our culture. So when you are bringing an abrupt change to this culture, or when you are attacking the cultural institutions, the 1,000 years long nurtured heritage, of course, there is an economic cost and there is a long-term price that you will pay.
Welcome to the show. And last, finally, we have Dr. S.M. Masum Billah. He's a professor of law. Bangladesh has a constitution. It has signed international treaties. On paper, protection exists. Dr. Billah is going to tell us what's the gap between paper and reality looks like, and who is legally responsible for it. Masum Billah, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much. Such a pleasure to be on board with this August figures, and through you, I want to extend my heartiest felicitations to the audience. Absolutely, absolutely. Culture is what a community lives by, and which decides a community's being and becoming. And you cannot treat the question of law from the question of culture, because there is a culture of law itself. Constitution is also a culture. We cherish it, we nourish it, and it is our fundamental duty to protect, defend, and promote our culture. Thank you very much for getting me connected with.
Excellent, excellent. I want to thank everyone for sharing some of your invaluable time with us today. Like you all suggested, we're going to see a pattern that cannot be unseen. Our Bangla foundation being destroyed, and a state that has chosen to look away. That is exactly where we are starting. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay with us for what would be an insightful and thought provoking episode of the Persecution Report. First, Jihan, please take us in.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. We are going to talk about how our culture, Bengali culture, is under attack, not quietly, but very, very, very loudly. There is not only a mob per se, it is a methodical attack on our culture, on our language, and secularism, the very identity that makes who we are. I want to start with a number, Dr. Jamil, because numbers don't lie, right? 1,492. Let's focus on this number, 1,492. That is how many sculptures, murals, memorials, and relief carvings were vandalized, burned, or torn from the ground between August 5 and August 14, 2024, following the ouster of the democratically elected Awami League government. Let that sink in, Dr. Jamil. 9 days, in a matter of only 9 days, spreading 59 districts, 1,492 sculptures were just gone. These are not random. Each of these incidents was very well documented by Prothomalo. Let me show you and walk you through how this number breaks down. In Khulna, 479, in Dhaka, 273, Chittagong, 204, Rajshahi, 166, Sylhet, 49. Now, Dr. Jamil, this spread tells you something. It tells you that this riot was not only Dhaka-centric riot. It was a coordinated campaign targeted against Bangladesh, against our Bengali identity. We just very recently had 17th April, right? The first provisional government of Bangladesh. And that reminds us of Mujibnagar Memorial Complex. This is where the first provisional government of Bangladesh took its oath. Now on August 5, like on the eve or afternoon of August 5, when the country was in complete disarray, more than 100 thugs went in with iron rod and sticks and hammer. They first went for the head of the statue of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, followed by the guard of honor statue depicting Sayyid Nazrul Islam. Then the surrender tablet. Over 300 individual sculpture in that place was destroyed in one afternoon. As of March 2026, these sculptures are still broken, Dr. Jamil. The government of Bangladesh tells us that they don't have enough fund to repair the birthplace of our nation. Now I would like to switch your focus and the audience's focus to Dhanmondi 32 residents of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. It is like the lighthouse of our independence. This is where Bangabandhu used to live. This is where Bangabandhu ran his political campaign. This is where Bangabandhu and most of his family members, including the 10-year-old baby Sheikh Russell, were brutally taken away from us on August 7, 1975. These thugs had some grudge against this residence. They burned it on August 5th. And then February 2025, they went there with a bulldozer and bulldozed it. It was a coordinated attack on our identity, on our memory, on who we are. Across the country, more than 22 Shilpakala Academies were completely vandalized and destroyed. Harmoniums, tanpuras, cameras, 3,000 plus musical instruments were completely gone. In Kumilla, the Bir Chandra Public Library that used to hold historical books, 135 years of history, that library was completely destroyed. Now, let's think about our Bauls, our Sufis, the mystics who promote peace, who promote love and tolerance. Darkness descended upon them throughout the country. More than 50 Sufi shrines came under attack between August 2024 and July 2025. We have talked about all these attacks, we have documented those, we have raised our concern. The human rights organizations of the world raised their concern, but the government of Bangladesh could care less. They could care less because we have seen in Rajbai district, the fundamentalists going to a grave and exhuming a body out of the grave and then burning it. Imagine this scene in 2026. It is not the medieval period. You go to a grave, you exhume the body, and then you burn the body. How inhuman is this? And then we all have seen Halim Uddin Akand, a 70-year-old Baul singer, completely harmless, peaceful guy. He came under attack by these thugs who went there and shaved his beard forcefully that he had for 36 plus years or 37 years. He, in front of all these thugs and mobs, he was completely helpless. So he reached out to the one he could, the God, Allah with the Hish. That means, oh God, you bear witness. Dr. Jamil, it was no political statement. It was not a political statement. It was his protest, the only protest that he could. Let's look at this, take a look at this timeline. Between August 2024 and February 2025, 2 Lalon Mela were cancelled amid threat from the religious fundamentalist. Why? Lalon, peaceful guy. But Lalon also is a part of our Bengali identity. So their grudge is against our Bengali identity. All our identities are being renamed. Mangal Shobhajatra, right? We know Mangal Shobhajatra of Pohela Boishakh. It is a recognized activity even by the UNESCO, who recognizes it as something of humanity, cultural heritage of humanity, and they declared it as such in 2016. The word Mongol means auspicious, but they have some problem against this term as well. They renamed it. Why? This cultural activity was actually part of a cultural resistance against military dictatorship. Now, the same type of government is trying to undo this part of our culture. Bangabandhu Avenue in Dhaka was renamed to, I don't want to mention this. And then we have Islamic University in Kustia, where there is a hall called Bangabandhu Hall. Bangabandhu Hall was renamed to Shah Azizur Rahman Hall. the very guy who stood in 1971 in the UN and said that there was no genocide going on in Bangladesh. That man has a hall now, a university hall now, Dr. Jamil, in Bangladesh. And lastly, Constitution is part of also our culture, as Dr. Billah very prudently stated. These thugs went after our Constitution as well, specifically Article 8 and Article 12. This talks about secularism, this talks about who we are. They want to have this removed as well. So from this, all this, Dr. Jamil, I'm sure that you and our audiences can get an idea that these are not any isolated incidents. These are a pattern. And the goal is to attack our Bengali identity and change it. And culture is important. Cultural resistance is important because culture makes us who we are. So all should be really, really warned about what is going on. These kind of atrocities against our culture need to stop. Back to you.
Thank you, Jihan, for this saddening but a detailed show that shows us the scale of the destruction. Now I'd like to go deeper into one specific dimension of it, which is the next segment of our show today, the erasure of memory. The statues are left broken. The institutions were renamed after 1971 collaborators. The deliberate dismantling of the physical record of who we are as Bangladeshis. This is where Dr. Tashfeen Hussain and Dr. Masum Billah will be taking us now, covering both the cost of this erasure and the legal framework that was supposed to prevent this from happening. My first question will be to Dr. Tashfeen Hussain. Tashfeen, most people hear about these 1492 sculptures being destroyed and feel grief, just like Jihan was showing us earlier. You look at it and think about what it costs. Walk us through the economic logic of cultural destruction, please.
Thank you. So I'm just going to mention just several, just before I get into how it's hurting the economy or where it can hurt the economy. Let's just focus on something that that Jihan has mentioned. So there are sculptures that have been destroyed. There are institutions which have been attacked. So let's assume for a second that Sheikh Hasina was indeed a fascist, not a good person. So if we assume that, that basically gives some kind of rationale behind the wrath of people against her. Okay. All right. We understand that. But why then you are attacking the Mujibnagar Memorial Complex? How it's related to Sheikh Hasina's fascism? Why you are attacking Shilpakala Academies? Why you are attacking Lalon Shah? Why you are attacking drama festivals, music festivals and all that? So basically, it's not about that at all. It's about trying to change the cultural identity of this country. Now, this country's cultural identity is, of course, based on the thousands of years of nurtured practices of cultural festivals, our heritage. But the biggest part of this cultural identity is our independence war. Our independence war is a political event, no doubt about that. But politics is also part of our culture, and this is the biggest part of our culture. This cannot be changed even from 1,000 years from now, whoever tries that. Now, when you are doing that, then you are going to hurt certain sectors. For example, I have the data here regarding tourism. So our tourism sector has really picked up in last 15 or 20 years. Now, the tourism sector was projected to reach about annual revenue value of about 1.66 billion by 2028. Now, in 2023, 1 year before Yunus's regime has took over, visitors spent about 453 million. In 2024, this has significantly dropped, and I do not think that this has picked up in 2025 or 2026, and I do not think this will pick up. Now, why is that? Because what attracts visitors to Bangladesh? What attracts visitors to its Bangladesh is its cultural heritage, right? Its natural beauty and its cultural heritage. So people will visit, of course, places where there are natural beauties like Cox's Bazar and whatnot. But, more importantly, they are also attracted to the unique cultural heritage that we have. So when you are attacking these cultural institutions, this cultural heritage, of course, these visitors are going to get confused. They are going to get scared, and they will ask themselves a simple question: when the people of a country destroys its own rich cultural heritage, should I really visit to that country? And think about it. If I see, let's say, for example, I want to go to Peru because Peru has lots of, cultural heritage from Aztec times, Machu Picchu and all and whatnot. And if I see the Peruvian government is systematically destroying, or the people of Peru, the mob, is systematically destroying those cultural heritage sites, will I go to Peru? I will absolutely not go to Peru. So that's basically is going to hurt the tourism sector. The other thing is, there is something called creative economy, economy related to performing arts. And globally, this sector is growing. And we were about to have a strong foothold on that. Now, when you are attacking Baul music, when you are attacking Lalon Festival, when you are attacking our dramas, our dances and all that, so you are destroying the potential contribution of the young people in this creative economy. So this is a big sector which can generate a lot of employment and which has generated a lot of employment. And if you look at the data of other countries or the worldwide data even, I mean, that creative economy, I believe global is 3% of the whole global GDP. So this is a very important sector. So you are closing that sector for our, younger generations, and you are deliberately doing it. So which basically means you are deliberately narrowing the economic future of an entire nation. The last thing that I'm going to say is about remittances. People send remittances from outside. Who are these? These are the first generation immigrants who still have family members in Bangladesh. They do this through a culturally emotional bond and family bond. Now, for the second generation of immigrants, third generation of immigrants, of course, this family bond is not going to be there. If we still want the remittances from them, we need to make sure that that cultural bond is there, the emotional bond is there, which is going to pass to them through their parents. Now, if we are destroying that cultural heritage, we are going to slowly erode that emotional bond. And when this erosion will gradually take place, then definitely this is going to have an impact on remittance. Not only that, this is also going to have an impact on foreign investment, because all the diaspora, they are not going to be encouraged anymore to influence from their own place in different countries to invest in Bangladesh. So this is, we can see that the economic cost that we can see right now, and the we need to also think about the long-term economic cost. In the long term, when you're trying to change the cultural identity of a nation, when you are trying to attack the very essence of culture of a nation, of course, the nation will pay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hussain. You've given us a very broad and picture of the economic cost, especially the part about possible tourism was really hitting home about the financial aspect of it. My next question is for Dr. Masum Billah. Dr. Billah, about the legal dimensions. Bangladesh has a constitution, we know, everyone knows. It has signed international treaties. And yet, what Jihan showed us happened anyway. I want to understand, and our audience would like to understand, this gap between paper and the reality. Masum?
Jihan, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly. Go ahead.
Right. I'm deeply touched by presentation from Jihan because it presents compelling evidences of cultural destruction. I am also enriched by the interpretation offered by Dr. Tashfeen Hussain. The way he interpreted the things is really horrible for our future. Now, let me reiterate in response to your question that our constitution, which was written by our sweat, blood, tears back in 1971, soon after 1971, the 1972 original constitution that we fondly call Article 23 guarantees the protection of cultural heritage, national monuments, regional culture, because the founders of our constitution, they understood that protection of culture is the soul of the nation. So if we want to protect it, we must also offer a constitutional protection to them. But as you have rightly mentioned, that those have been rhetoric since last 1 or 2 years or so, because there has been a huge gap between the promise of the constitution and the reality. Now, there has been a phenomenal growth of militancy. They call it democracy. We call it militant democracy in a farcical manner. And you will see that there has been a walkover towards the rise of reactionary politics. During the Yunus regime, there was a phenomenon of lawlessness. There was an overall environment of hatred, of intolerance, and of destruction in lieu of construction. So that has taken a huge toll on the understanding of our cultural heritage, of our cultural becoming. Look at Asaduzzaman Noor, a very prominent cultural figure, icon of Bangladesh. Our boyhood has been defined by his stature of acting, reciting, and his aura of cultural understanding. And there is no convincing, allegation against him to show that he needs to be in jail. So that single incident proves to what extent there has been an aggression of our cultural well-being. And let us not forget about Mumtaz, the famous folk singer who represents the folk tradition of music, an opulent heritage of Bengal music. I can give you thousands of examples. There has been somersault on our legal understanding as well. The whole legal idea has been dismantled over the last 2 years or so. Because you see, look at, Jihan has mentioned that a university hall has been named after Shah Azizur Rahman, whom has been declared by the law of the country itself a collaborator, who argued against nationhood of Bangladesh in the UN. Can you imagine it? You can. Also forget that during Yunus regime, and so has been the case with this government, there is a continuation, that music as a discipline has been dropped out from the syllabus. And it is said that no music teacher will be recruited in the primary level, primary university level, as somebody has called recently, that teachers will not be taken. Whereas you see that music is a moral law. Music is a moral law. Social understanding, every kind of creativity depends upon it. If you robs it away, the society becomes soulless. The society becomes, it goes anywhere. It becomes extreme. So there rise the phenomenal growth of extremism in such an environment. Look at this so-called Constitutional Reform Commission, headed by another so-called political scientist, Professor Ali Riaz. His commission has recommended deletion of the basic fabric of the nation, secularism. Not only secularism, in one of his interviews, this professor, quote and unquote, has recommended the rewriting of Bangladesh's constitution. The constitution, which has been written by our sweat, tears, and blood by many millions back in 1972. So they are doing that. And what has been the recent toll? They have underestimated the national poet, Qazi Nazrul Islam. And there is this extremist guy who was unfortunately assassinated by miscreant even in that under very Yunus regime. His graveyard has been placed beside the National Poets Mausoleum. Now, if Nazrul is defeated, who suffers the consequence?
Thank you, Dr. Billah. I think this is very alarming, right? A live legal crisis. It's not hypothetical, right? I want the audience to hold that phrase as we move on to our next segment, because now we have a stone. We leave stone and institutions and go somewhere very personal. The silencing of our Bauls, the people whose tradition are under direct attack. The Bauls, the fakirs, the Sufi communities. This is where our story becomes human. So in our next segment, we're going to talk about Baul music as it is in a UNESCO representative. Yes, it is in a UNESCO representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Some of you may remember that Bangladesh signed this treaty and accepted a Japanese funding of nearly 70,000 US dollars specifically to safeguard the Baul traditions. And then a 70-year-old fakir was pinned to the ground and had 37 years of his practice shaved off in broad daylight with no consequences. I want to understand what is happening to this tradition, legally and economically. Masum Billah, my first question in this segment is for you. The arrest of Abul Sarkar for hurting religious sentiment, while the people who attacked him and that group supporters walk free. So what is the legal name and sequence for what is happening here? Please share with them.
Let me permit, what should I call it? A republic of heart sentiment. Our constitution started with three revolutionary expressions. We, the people of Bangladesh, we call it, very fondly call it, People's Republic. Sovereignty belongs to the people. So the constitutional understanding envisage a society full of tolerance, full of peace, full of cultural enrichment. But what we see, there has been a rise of extremism, intolerance, and hatred in the society. And there is this term, hurting one's religious sentiment. So some scholar has termed it as a republic of heart sentiment. We have enough of it. There is a tussle between the criminal law and the constitutional law. But always the constitutional principles should be upheld, right? So you see that in this principle of, in this republic of heart sentiment, somebody alleges that, oh, my religious sentiment has been offended. And on a fine morning, the police will go and will capture this person, and Abul Hussain's Sarkar's arrest. So is the case with the recent incident, tragic incident, where a Sufi pir was burnt and was beaten to death in Kushtia, the very land of Lalon. So this law of hurting sentiment is being misused and abused and has been compromised with the ideals of constitutionalism. And again, you can interpret it through the phenomenon of Republic of Facebook. There has been a recent phenomenon that if something is written on Facebook, I call it a digital theocracy. There is no law. Somebody has written in and tell that, well, my feelings, my sentiment has been hurt. So the criminal law has taken over it, and they are not prosecuting, they are persecuting. Prosecution is a legal process. I don't mind. If somebody commits wrong, that person should get remedy. There is a legal recourse, which we call rule of law. But what we see is a kind of rule by law, where that law does not conform to the established principles of constitutionalism and rule of law. So let us call it not prosecution, it is a persecution. Persecution of person's liberty, reputation, life, body, due process of law, everything. So people are taking law in their own hands in the theatre of digital theocracy. So we call it, let me call it not technology, it is called technology. So unless and until this phenomenon disappears, really there will be a serious problem for our cultural upbringing of the nation.
Thank you, Dr. Billah. That was very, very eloquent. The record bill today surely will outlast this government. Profoundly sad indeed. Let us now move to Dr. Hussain. Tashfeen, the Baul tradition is also a living economy. People have livelihoods attached to it. Tell us what this economic destruction looks like at the ground level, please. Tashfeen?
Thank you. Before I move into that, I just want to quickly go back to something that Dr. Billah has said about Dr. Ali Riaz. Now, as an academician, it's very difficult for me to see that when a person who calls himself an academician or who is teaching at a university sells out like that. So we do not call them academicians. We actually call them agents. And one of the advisors of the caretaker of the Yunus government. We can say the same thing about him as well. I just want to point out a very, very interesting fact, and I want everybody to actually hear this. So Dr. Ali Riaz basically says that from Bangladesh's constitution, secularism should be deleted. He lives in a country which believes in secularism. So if in this country, for example, in the United States, somebody would say that, okay, it should not be secular anymore. So it's basically will be the state religion would be the Anglo-Saxon values of Europe. Then I am sure he would not like it. But he loves it when it comes for Bangladesh. So this is, you can see the hypocrisy of these people, that they are not academicians. They are academicians in name. They are basically agents of the extremist elements who would love to live in a secular country, who would love to say in that country that, okay, we are the visible minorities and our rights should be protected, and the state should not follow a particular religion and all that. But for their homeland, where they are the majority, they actually want that. So I want everybody to understand that. Now, going back to Raihan. So you were talking about the Baul tradition and the Lalon Mela and all that. So when you have this things, when you attack this, or when you stop this, definitely the livelihood of a lot of people are going to be impacted. For example, when you have a drama festival, when you have a music festival, when you have the Lalon festival, think about the economic transactions that takes place. People go there, people are buying things, people are selling things. A lot of people just wait for those festivals to happen, especially a lot of our artists, a lot of people whose livelihood are about making different kind of clothes, different kind of musical instruments. So of course you are hurting the livelihoods of those people. The other thing is, the Bangladesh government has taken money from UNESCO. And that money, if I understand this correctly, is anywhere from 65,000 to 70,000 US dollar. And that was about helping this beautiful Baul tradition. Because this is a big part of not only the cultural heritage of Bangladesh, this is kind of big part of the world heritage. Now, you took that money and now you're sending them to jail. You are killing them. You are continuously attacking them. So I don't understand how you can justify even keeping that money. So definitely you are hurting, a lot of, I guess the livelihoods a lot of people. And as I said before, that some of these costs are visible and some of these costs are not visible right now, but they will become really, really visible in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hussain, for this clear picture. This disconnection between self-image and what you say on the news is what stays with us, I'm sure. Jihan, I'd like to go to you briefly. You have been listening to what Dr. Hussain and Dr. Masum Billah was describing about the legal and the economic aspect, the economic architecture of this destruction. I want to ask you something more personal before we move on to our next segment. So my question, Jihan, is Lalon Shah died in 1890. 1890. His followers have been persecuted across 2 centuries, right? And they are still being attacked today. What does this tell you about what the Jamaat-Yunus regime is actually afraid of? Jihan?
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. So to directly go to answer your question, it tells me that these folks are not afraid of a person. They are not afraid of an individual, but they are afraid of the idea that the individual represents. Lalon Shah, Fakir Lalon Shah preached that divine as we know it, does not need a gatekeeper. He preached that humanity comes before religion, before caste. One Lalon song, Jat Galo Bole. His whole philosophy was against the caste system. He had Hindu disciples, he had Muslim disciples, and he had those who did not follow any religion. His whole philosophy was a standing rebuke to the gatekeepers of faith. And every generation, Dr. Shamil, every generation since he was alive, every generation of religious hardliners since he was alive has understood it. They are not confused about his legacy. They are not confused about his philosophy. They are threatened by it. A 135-year-old dead mystic still frightens them because Lalon Shah and his philosophy lives through us, through the mouth of the ordinary people. And his philosophy is a threat to religious hardliners. I would like to quickly come back to Halim Uddin Akand and his cry to God, his complaint to God. He was not making any political statement, as I have mentioned earlier, Dr. Jamil. He was protesting to God to witness the humiliation that he was overseeing. Those thugs who recorded this, who uploaded this to Facebook, thought they were doing some sort of social service. But what they were doing actually was showing us that what happens when government abandons their people to the hand of those hardliners. Yunus Jamaat government, it was all about those hardliners. And Fakir Lalon Shah, his ideology of peace, inclusion, ideology against the caste and all that are a threat to those hardliners. Back to you.
Thank you, Jihan. Allah tu dekhis. Like, we're not going to forget that phrase tonight. Now let us move on to the final dimension of this assault. Not fires and hammers, the quieter work. The curriculum changes, the constitutional amendments, the renaming of institutions after known collaborators and criminals, people who have conducted the genocide. This is where ideology becomes policy, and policy shapes the next generation. Let us move on to our next segment, the ideological purge, as it is the most consequential part of both the Jamaat Yunus regime and now the Jamaat-BNP government. Their cultural agenda, because it targets the next generation of Bangladeshis, right? Tashfeen, let us start there. When you look at the sum of these institutional changes, the curriculum shift, the renaming wave, like I was mentioning, the rehabilitation of known collaborators, Rajakars, what are you actually looking at economically and strategically? Tasfin?
Yeah, so I'll just try to keep my answer quite short here because I think I have mentioned this before. So when you are making these curriculum changes, you are excluding excluding music or theater, all the fine arts, or you are basically, as Dr. Billah mentioned, that they will not hire a teacher for music in the school level. What you are doing is, again, as I said, in that creative economy part, you are completely destroying the future of that part, or the potential of that part, for the future generations of Bangladesh. So they are going to be hurt economically. The other thing is that we have seen again and again in many research that you are not going to become competitive in the job market unless you actually acquire these fine art skills. This is the reason why in different universities in all over the world, whether you are studying engineering or whether you are studying something else, for example, you still need to take music as a class. You still need to take theater as a class. Why? Because this is that part of that preparing you intellectually for the job market. So that's the far-reaching impact that I can see, that their intellectual development is going to be impacted, negatively impacted, and definitely that is going to have an impact on their economic contribution in future.
Thank you, Dr. Hussain. Thank you. That was a short and quick answer that captures the essence of it. Soft power builds over decades and destroyed in a single term, as we have seen in the Jamaat regime. Quite disturbing, to say the least. My next question is for our legal expert, Dr. Masum Billah. Dr. Masum Billah, the constitutional dimension of this purge, because deleting Article 8 and 12 is not just a legal matter, and both you and Jihan have briefly touched on it before. It is a rewriting of the founding compact, is it not? And what could a reversal from this might look like? Masum Billah?
Absolutely. They are not only deleting 8 and 12, they are totally throttling down the 1972 Constitution. That's their mission. They have suggested to drop down the historical speech of Bangabandhu, the proclamation of our independence, the legal heritage, from the corpus of the Constitution. So look at the parliament they have formed. Do you call it a parliament at all, where the successor of the war criminal verdicts, they adorn the chair of lawmakers? You can easily imagine what would be the fate of the Constitution itself. Let me call it as a threshold of abusive constitutionalism. So the trends is much deeper than we can anticipate. There is a huge trauma waiting at the national psyche of Bangladesh, not only in terms of legal front. Let us not steer away the legal dimension from other phenomena, from cultural, from political, from economic, everywhere, because law is a social phenomenon. What is being attacked, not only law, but also the whole being and becoming of Bengali nationhood. That's the problem. So legal pathway is not the only solution. Law is not the panacea of all maladies. What we need is a kind of documentation, is a kind of well-networked communication with the international community, who understand that, yes, an attack to a UNESCO cultural heritage is an offense to humanity. It shocks the conscience of the humanity. Look, two important institutions, cultural heritage, the 7 March speech, and by extension to that, Bangabandhu's residence, because when you want to preserve and protect the 7 March speech, one also needs to see that other tenets of Bangabandhu is also protected under the heritage law. And then again, you have rightly mentioned the Mangal Shobhajatra and many more. So the consequence is the destruction of the whole edifice of Bengali nationhood. I cannot give you any write-out solution, legal remedy for that. You may say that, well, we can challenge it before the court of law, but look at the condition of the judiciary we have had. Already they have amended the International Crimes Tribunal law to their own whim. They have simply bring it out from the pocket and amended it to their advantage, and have attacked the long-standing public political figures who have documented history for fighting for secularism and non-communalism. Now they are using that law to the rise of Islamic fanaticism. So it is being used totally in a reverse manner. And I cannot, as a law academic, I cannot really be optimistic about the performance the judiciary has shown. Look at the this phenomenon of not granting even bail to the people. People are being attacked; they are being snatched away even in the court corridor. Even their rulings are not going against the constitution. Even look at the 15th Amendment case that has been decided during Yunus regime. Justice Farah Mahbub and Debashir Chaudhary is ruling that, well, we are not deciding on the question of secularism and state religion. So they are simply throwing away it to the mouth of Jamaat Islam and their political ally. Apparently, they have formed the ruling party government, but on the question when the secular forces, political forces will come, will assert their statement, will make their statement to the society, they will be together. So that's the real challenges right at this moment. So I don't know whether there is any shortcut way to come up from this situation, but I emphasize on collective resilience and a kind of cultural renaissance that can save us from this horrible situation.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Billah. Really, the record built today is the foundation of justice tomorrow. So we have come to the last segment of our show about reclaiming our future. Over the course of the hour, we have listened to about how the Bengali culture is being gradually destroyed, to say the least, right? So it's really something that we have to be very, very alarmed about. So my question now is to Jihan. Jihan, the final word of the night of tonight is yours. What do you think about all of this? What are your thoughts? Where do we go from here?
Thank you, Dr. Tamil. I want to say something to everyone watching, and I want to say it very simply. What is being done to Bangladesh's culture right now is not something new. The scale, the brashness, all this may be different, but this sort of attack against our culture existed before as well. But what we have seen is that this failed. It failed because culture, as we know it, Dr. Jamil, does not live through ministries, it does not live through a government. It lives through people. Kokil Lalon Shah was not preserved by a government. His song was sang by his disciples on courtyard, at festival, and those lived through his disciples. And what we are doing, these are not merely citing numbers or providing arguments. This is living resistance. We are part of resistance. But I would like to again bring back one song of Lalon, Shomoy Gele Shadhon Habena. That means if the time passes, the Shadhon, the action that we will take may not matter. So everyone watching must understand this, must understand the gravity and be part of this active resistance so that whenever still there is time available, we can protect our culture. Because if our culture lives, we live, our country lives. Back to you.
Thank you, Jihan. And this is resistance indeed, and it will outlast everything that they are trying to build. To Dr. Tashfeen Hussain, to Dr. S.M. Masum Billah, and of course to you, Anwar Sadat Jihan, thank you for your precision, your courage, and your care for Bangladesh tonight. To everyone watching, from wherever you are in the world, The culture they are trying to erase is yours. The culture they are trying to erase is ours. Hold it, speak it, pass it on. And for everyone here, Joy Bangla. This is Raihan Jamil signing off from the Persecution Report until we see you again. Thank you, everyone.